Love is supposed to be the strongest bond between two people. It is built on trust, loyalty, and the belief that no matter what happens, your partner will stand beside you. For years, I believed I had that kind of love. My wife and I weren't just partners. We were best friends, companions, and a team. At least, that's what I thought. We had been married for several years, and like most couples, our journey had both sunshine and storms. There were moments of laughter that made life sparkle, and quiet evenings where we found peace in each other's company. People often told us we looked perfect together. And honestly, I used to believe it. She was my safe place, and I never imagined a life where I couldn't trust her. But love has a strange way of testing hearts. Sometimes, the person you give your whole soul to is the one who leaves the deepest wound. I didn't notice the cracks at first, the small changes in her mood, the sudden distance in her eyes. I ignored them, convincing myself it was just stress or exhaustion. Then came the girls' trip. She spoke about it with glowing excitement, claiming it would be a refreshing break. I smiled, I trusted, and I let her go, never knowing that this trip would become the turning point of my life. Looking back now, that was the beginning of a storm. Before the girls' trip, I began to notice little shifts in her behavior. Small things that seemed harmless at first, but slowly grew into patterns I couldn't ignore. She used to leave her phone lying around without a care, but suddenly, it was always in her hand or face down on the table. If a notification popped up, she would quickly swipe it away as if the screen carried secrets I wasn't meant to see. Our late-night conversations, once filled with laughter and stories of our day, turned into short replies and tired excuses. I would ask, "Is something bothering you?" And she would brush me off with a half-smile, saying, "Just tired." Yet her eyes told a different story, a story I wasn't ready to read. She also started spending more time out of the house. Random work dinners, late-night coffee runs with friends, and vague explanations became her new routine. When I asked for details, her answers were quick, sometimes defensive. "Why are you questioning me so much? Don't you trust me?" she would snap. I trusted her. Of course I did, but something in my chest whispered that trust was being taken for granted. Even the smallest gestures began to fade. She used to kiss me goodbye every morning. She used to send little texts during the day, "Miss you," or "Don't forget to eat." Those sweet habits disappeared like smoke in the wind. What replaced them was silence, excuses, and a wall I couldn't break through. I wanted to believe I was overthinking. I wanted to believe she was just stressed, maybe overwhelmed with life. But deep down I knew the heart has a way of sensing betrayal before the mind dares to accept it. When she first mentioned the girls' trip, her face lit up with excitement. "It's just a short getaway with my friends," she said, brushing it off as something casual, harmless. I smiled and nodded, even though a small part of me felt uneasy. I didn't want to be the jealous, controlling husband who questions everything. So I stayed silent. But as the days of preparation began, my uneasiness grew stronger. She suddenly bought new clothes, outfits far different from her usual style. Tucked among them, I noticed lingerie with the price tag still attached, items she had never worn for me. I told myself it was probably nothing, just a way for her to feel confident with her friends. But my heart refused to believe such simple explanations. The night before she left, she seemed more glued to her phone than ever. Every time I walked into the room, she tilted the screen away. When I asked who she was texting, she said, "Just the girls, planning stuff." Her tone was sharp, almost offensive. I didn't push further, but a heavy silence hung between us that night. Once the trip began, her communication nearly disappeared. She claimed the Wi-Fi at the hotel was terrible, yet her social media told a different story. Pictures of beach cocktails, late-night dancing, endless fun. What stung most was that none of her photos included her so-called girls. It was always just her, smiling at the camera like someone else was taking those pictures. Whenever I called, she sounded distracted. "I'll call you later, babe," she would say quickly before hanging up. Later rarely came. Each unanswered call, each vague excuse, was like a drop of poison in my veins. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe this was just an innocent trip. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about friends. This was about something else. Something she wasn't telling me. When she returned from the trip, something inside me shifted. I had been clinging to hope, convincing myself that maybe I was wrong, that maybe I had let suspicion poison my thoughts. But the moment she walked through the door, I knew. Her smile was different, forced, almost rehearsed. She hugged me, but was cold, like an obligation rather than a longing. The scent of her perfume lingered, but it didn't remind me of home. It carried a bitterness I couldn't explain. In the days that followed, her distance grew sharper. She avoided eye contact, kept conversations short, and always seemed to be somewhere else in her mind. At night, she slept with her back turned to me, her phone hidden under her pillow. I could feel the wall between us thickening with every passing hour. Then came the proof I could no longer ignore. One evening, while she showered, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I respected her privacy, but something inside me pushed me forward. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. Her password had recently changed, but a small guess unlocked the screen. What I saw shattered me. Messages, dozens of them, not from her girls, but from one man, the way she wrote to him. Playful, romantic, intimate, were words she hadn't spoken to me in months. Pictures she had sent, smiles I hadn't seen in ages, promises of next time, and then the dagger in my chest. I wish this trip never ended. I can't stop thinking about you. I sat there frozen, the phone burning in my hands. My heart pounded, my stomach twisted. My world collapsed in that single moment. I had always feared betrayal, but facing it was something else, like watching her entire life crumble in silence. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I put the phone back where I found it and lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The rage inside me wanted to explode, but my pride whispered to stay calm. If I was going to confront her, it wouldn't be with shouting or begging. It would be with strength. And so I waited, patiently, quietly, knowing the moment of truth was coming. The weight of her betrayal sat heavy on my chest for days. I walked through the house like a ghost, pretending everything was normal, while inside my heart burned with unanswered questions. I didn't want to accuse her, without giving her the chance to speak her truth. But I also knew the lies had already poisoned our love. One evening, I asked her to sit with me in the living room. She seemed nervous, as if she already knew what was coming. She folded her arms tightly, avoiding my gaze. I took a deep breath and said calmly, "Tell me about the trip." Her eyes flickered. "It was fine. We had fun," she answered quickly, her tone flat, almost rehearsed. "With who?" I pressed gently. She hesitated, biting her lip. "The girls. You know, just the usual crowd." I leaned forward. "Then why do your messages tell a different story?" The color drained from her face. For a moment, she was silent. Then, instead of denying, she sighed heavily and muttered, "I knew you'd find out sooner or later." My chest tightened. "So it's true," I whispered. She nodded, her eyes still refusing to meet mine. Then, as if rehearsed, she added, "Listen, I don't think we should keep going like this. I think it's better if we stop being husband and wife and just be friends." The words sliced through me like a knife. Be friends? After years of love, sacrifices, promises, and dreams, she wanted to reduce it all to friendship? My heart screamed, but I kept my face calm. I studied her carefully. She looked almost relieved, as if she expected me beg, to cry, to cling to her even after betrayal. She thought she held the power. But in that moment, I realized something important. Her betrayal didn't define me. Her decision to throw away our bond was not my weakness. It was hers. I sat back, steady and controlled, ready to give her the one reply that would shatter her fragile pride. Silence stretched between us after she said those words. "Let's just be friends." She sat there with folded arms, waiting for my reaction, almost confident that I would crumble. I could see it in her eyes. She expected tears, begging, maybe even anger. That was her plan. If I begged, she would feel important. If I exploded, she could blame me for being toxic. Either way, she wanted control. But I didn't give her that satisfaction. Instead, I leaned back, my face calm, my voice steady. "Friends, I repeated softly as if tasting the word. You broke every promise we ever made, and you think friendship is enough? No, you don't deserve that. Her eyebrows shot up. She wasn't expecting that. What do you mean? She asked, her voice shaky. I looked her straight in the eyes. I don't stay friends with people who betray me. You made your choice on that trip. You gave my place to someone else. You don't get to come back here and downgrade me to a friend. You've already lost the right to be in my life. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time in weeks, she looked powerless. You know what hurts the most? I continued. It's not the betrayal itself. It's the fact that you thought so little of me, that I would accept scraps after giving you everything, that I'd still stick around, grateful just to be your friend. She flinched, her ego taking the hit. I didn't mean it like that, she stammered. Yes, you did, I said firmly. You wanted me as your safety net, while you enjoyed someone else. But I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your second option. You don't get to keep me in your pocket for when life gets hard. I'm done. Her face turned red with frustration. You're overreacting, she snapped, her voice rising. It was just a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I shook my head slowly. If it meant nothing, you wouldn't have hidden it. You wouldn't have lied. And you definitely wouldn't be sitting here asking me to accept friendship after betrayal. That's not love. That's arrogance. She slammed her hand on the table. You're throwing everything away. No, I replied calmly. You already did. I'm just walking out with my dignity intact. The room went quiet. She glared at me, furious, but behind her anger I saw it. The crack in her ego, the shock that I wasn't playing the role she expected. She wanted control, but I had taken it back with nothing more than the truth. And in that moment, she knew she had lost me forever. The silence after my words was heavy, like the air itself had frozen. She stared at me with wide eyes, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for an argument that didn't exist. For the first time, I saw fear in her expression. Not fear of me, but fear of losing control she thought she held over me. Then the storm came. She jumped to her feet, her voice trembling with both anger and desperation. You're not even giving me a chance to explain. You don't understand. It just happened, and I was confused. I stayed seated, calm, my voice steady. No, you were not confused. You were committed to him. Every text, every picture, every word you wrote proves that. Don't insult me by calling it confusion. Her anger flickered into guilt, then quickly into manipulation. She softened her voice, sat back down, and reached for my hand. We can fix this. Please. We've built so much together. Don't throw it away over one mistake. I pulled my hand back gently. You threw it away the moment you chose him over me. I'm not here to pick up pieces of something you smashed on purpose. Her composure cracked. She began to cry, the same tears that once would have broken me. But this time, I saw them differently. They weren't tears of love. They were tears of loss. The loss of her power, her safety net, her ability to keep me tied while she lived a double life. When she realized her crying wasn't working, she lashed out again. Fine, go, but don't come running back when you realize no one will love you like I did. I stood up slowly, looking at her one last time. You're right, I said. No one will love me like you did, because real love doesn't betray. And I'd rather be alone than chained to someone who doesn't know the meaning of loyalty. Her face twisted with rage and sorrow, but I didn't stay to watch. I walked away, leaving her to sit with the weight of her choices. Walking out of that house was the hardest thing I've ever done, yet it was also the most freeing. For years, I had believed that love meant holding on, forgiving, and enduring. But that night, I learned that real love is not about tolerating betrayal. It's about respecting yourself enough to walk away from it. The pain didn't vanish overnight. There were moments when memories tried to pull me back, when the silence of an empty home felt unbearable. But each time I thought about her, I remembered the strength it took to say no to disrespect. That reminder became my anchor. I realized that betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed. She broke her promises, not me. She abandoned loyalty, not me. And in the end, She was the one left clinging to excuses while I walked forward with dignity. Life after her wasn't easy at first, but it was honest. I no longer had to question late-night texts or fake smiles. I no longer had to fight for scraps of love. I was free to rebuild myself, stronger than before. And if there's one lesson I carry from all of this, it's simple. Never accept less than you deserve. Sometimes the most powerful comeback isn't anger or revenge. It's walking away with your head held high, leaving their egos shattered behind you.